Okay, think about this for a second. A tiny baby, I mean really tiny, life just hanging by a thread because their heart isn't strong enough.
Yeah, it's a tough reality.
And right now, the options, well, they're incredibly limited. It's just a heart-wrenching situation for these families.
Absolutely devastating.
But what if, just maybe, there was something new, something game-changing on the horizon?
A real possibility.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into a development that honestly could offer a lifeline where there's often very, very little hope.
And this isn't entirely out of the blue, is it? This idea of xenotransplantation.
Right. Using animal organs for human transplants.
Yeah, it's been this ambition in medicine for decades. A potential answer to the constant shortage of human organs.
A huge problem. So for this deep dive, let's really zoom in on the most vulnerable group. Babies born with really severe heart defects.
Things like single ventricle heart disease.
Exactly. The current standard often it involves mechanical support, right? These VADs, ventricular assist devices.
Correct. But the reality, as we're going to see, is just incredibly challenging for these specific infants.
It is, because while VADs can be, well, lifesavers in some situations.
Sure, for adults or different conditions, maybe.
Right. But for these tiny patients with that unique single ventricle physiology, they face huge hurdles.
Yeah, the source material we looked at was pretty stark. It highlights that, tragically, only about 30%, maybe, survive beyond 3 months on these devices.
Just 30%. That's sobering.
It really is. I mean, think about the strain on their little bodies, the constant risk of complications, strokes, bleeding, nasty infections.
It just screams out that we desperately need something better, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
So, okay, against that backdrop, this backdrop of limited options and just incredibly high stakes, this comes from really, really remarkable research. This is from Children's Hospital Los Angeles, led by Dr. John David Cleveland.
Okay.
And their work focuses on using genetically modified pig hearts.
Pig hearts, wow.
Yeah, but not necessarily as like a permanent fix. The idea is more like a vital bridge.
Well, bridge to what?
To keep these fragile babies alive, stable, until a human heart actually becomes available for transplant.
Ah, okay. So that temporary nature is key here.
Exactly.
The goal isn't, a lifelong pig heart. It's about getting them through that incredibly dangerous waiting period.
Giving them a much, much better shot at eventually getting that human transplant.
Right. And that's really the core of what we're exploring today, isn't it? Understanding the massive potential of this research.
Yeah, for these specific babies, obviously, but also maybe for the whole future of organ transplantation.
Definitely wider implications.
Okay, let's dig into that problem more. Single ventricle heart disease. You said it makes current support so difficult. What is it about that condition?
Well, what's fascinating and also so challenging is the basic structure of their hearts. A typical heart, has 2 ventricles, 2 main pumping chambers.
Right, left and right.
Exactly, each doing a specific job. But in these single ventricle defects, basically, only one of those pumps is properly formed and working.
Only one pump doing the work of 2.
Essentially, yeah. Think about like a house with only one water pump trying to send water everywhere. The kitchen, the bathroom, the garden hose.
Okay, I can see that. Hard to manage.
It's incredibly difficult to regulate the pressure and the flow just right for each different need. And that's kind of the challenge with the circulation. A mechanical device struggles to provide that precise, adaptable support.
Unlike a biological heart, which can make those subtle adjustments.
Precisely. A living heart adapts constantly. A machine is, well, a machine. It's much harder to replicate that nuance.
That analogy really helps. So if the machines have these built-in limits, the idea of using a pig heart, even just temporarily, it starts to sound really appealing. But why pigs? Why not, I don't know, another animal?
That's a great question. Several things make pigs sort of the front runners. Biologically, their organ size is actually quite similar to ours, or at least we can control it through breeding.
Ah, okay, size matters here.
Definitely for infants.
Okay.
But the real game changer, the thing that makes this research possible now, it's genetic engineering.
The modifications they can make.
Exactly. Scientists can now go in and very precisely tweak the pig's genes. They can modify the pig organs to make them much more compatible with us, with the human immune system.
So reducing that risk of rejection right off the bat.
Significantly reducing it.
Yeah.
Especially that immediate, really aggressive rejection that used to happen.
And this isn't just theory, right? You mentioned the CHLA team has done actual studies. The work with baboons sounds critical.
Absolutely critical. Using baboons is important because physiologically, they're quite close to humans. Makes them a good model.
So what did they do?
They took these genetically modified pig hearts and transplanted them into 14 young baboons. And the results, honestly, they were groundbreaking.
Yes.
Well, 8 of those baboons survived for several months, which was already pretty good. But one lived for 620 days.
Wait, 620 days with a pig heart?
Yep, that's nearly 2 years. I mean, I doubt even the researchers initially thought they'd get survival times quite that long. It just shows the progress.
That is just incredible. But it wasn't just about how long the hearts lasted, was it? There was something else about managing rejection.
Exactly right. That's maybe even more significant. In that baboon, the one that lived the longest, the team actually managed to reverse an episode of acute rejection.
Reverse it, like stop it after it started.
Yes. Think about that. It's not just preventing rejection, it's actively fighting it back once it begins. That tells us so much more about how our bodies interact with foreign tissue.
Huge implications beyond just transplants, potentially.
Could be. But for xenografts, these cross-species transplants actually reversing that aggressive immune attack. That was a first. A major milestone.
Wow. So, okay, they keep the pig hearts going and show they can beat back rejection. And then there was another step, right? Something after the pig hearts were working.
Yes. This is where it gets really, really interesting for the whole bridge concept.
Okay.
In 2 of the baboons that had these working pig hearts, the xenografts, the researchers then took the next step. They replaced those pig hearts with hearts from other baboons. So a same species transplant, which we call an allograft.
Okay, pig heart out, baboon heart in.
Exactly. And one of those baboons lived for another 105 days after that second transplant.
Whoa, so it worked. The switch worked.
It demonstrates the feasibility, yes. It shows you could, potentially, use the pig heart to get the patient strong enough, stable enough.
And then transition to a human heart when one finally becomes available.
Precisely. It shows the xenograft can function as a true bridge, not just a destination.
Yeah.
No one had actually shown that sequence successfully before.
That feels like a monumental leap. You're seeing extended life with the pig heart, and then proof you can successfully switch after the pig heart.
It really connects the dots.
So what specifically has made this possible now? When you think back to, say, the Baby Faye case in the 1980s, things clearly didn't go as well then.
You're absolutely right to bring up Baby Faye. A pioneering effort, no doubt, but tragically, rejection happened within just 21 days.
So what's changed?
The progress since then is just immense. Like we touched on, the source material really emphasizes the genetic modification of the pigs. It's been a total game changer.
Being able to make the organs more human-like.
Exactly. We can now target specific pig genes that we know trigger the human immune system and basically switch them off or alter them. It's incredibly precise work.
And it's not just about changing the pig, is it? It's also about managing the recipient's immune system.
Absolutely. That's the other side of the coin. Our ability to suppress or maybe modulate the recipient's immune response is much more sophisticated now.
Better drugs, better protocols.
Both. We have far more refined medications and treatment plans. The study specifically mentions using something called Tegoprubart.
Tegoprubart, what's special about that?
It's an anti-CD40L antibody. And what's really interesting here is how targeted it aims to be, instead of just, carpet bombing the entire immune system.
Which causes all sorts of side effects.
Right. This drug tries to sort of retrain specific immune cells, the T cells and B cells involved in rejection, to get them to accept the foreign organ.
Like sending a specific don't attack signal?
Kind of, yeah. Like trying to negotiate a peace treaty with just the key players in the immune system, rather than shutting everything down.
So potentially fewer side effects down the line? That would be huge.
That's the hope. A more precise, maybe less harmful approach long term.
And were there other sort of practical things they did in the procedure itself?
Yes, good point. The protocol they developed also focused heavily on minimizing the time the donor pig heart spent outside a living body.
The cold ischemic time.
Exactly. Reducing that time is really crucial. It helps preserve the organ's health and reduces the chances of problems right after transplant.
Makes sense. Keep it viable.
And they also partnered with a company called Genetically, using specific pigs, Yucatan miniature swine.
Why miniature ones?
Because they grow to a size that's much more appropriate for infant recipients. Organ size matching is critical.
Right, of course. Now, one of the most fascinating bits in this research, for me anyway, is the idea that babies, infants, might actually be better candidates for this than adults.
Yeah, that's a really key insight, isn't it?
It seems counterintuitive. Why would that be?
So the science behind it is basically this. The researchers found that kids, especially under 18, generally have way fewer pre-existing antibodies that would naturally attack pig tissues compared to adults.
So their bodies are less primed to reject it immediately.
Exactly. They're less likely to launch that super strong immediate rejection response.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
Okay.
Dr. Cleveland, the lead researcher, points out that what he calls the immature pediatric immune system seems to be more adaptable, more educable.
Educable, like you can teach it to tolerate the pig heart.
That's the idea. It might be more readily trained or coaxed into accepting the foreign tissue compared to a more established, shall we say, set in its ways adult immune system.
So the stage of immune development itself is a factor. Does that open up ideas for tailoring strategies based on age, maybe even for adults down the line?
It certainly could, yeah. It suggests immune maturity plays a big role.
So wow, it's almost like their vulnerability, their youth, actually works in their favor for this specific cutting-edge approach.
It appears that way. A fascinating twist.
So putting all this together, if this research pans out, if it can be successfully translated to human babies, what are the biggest potential upsides?
Well, connecting it back to where we started, the potential for just way better outcomes compared to VADs, it's enormous.
Getting away from that 30% survival rate?
Exactly. But more than just survival numbers, imagine these babies not being stuck in an ICU, tethered to machines.
Able to go home.
Potentially, yes. Going home with a functioning, temporary pig heart while they wait for that human transplant. That would be a fundamental shift in their quality of life and their family's life.
That's huge.
And remember that other finding. Successfully replacing the xenograft with an allograft in the baboons.
Yeah, the pig heart to baboon heart switch.
That opens up a whole new way of thinking. It suggests this kind of staged approach, using the xenoheart as a bridge, could actually become a viable clinical strategy.
It really does sound like a potential game changer, going from maybe 30% survival on a machine, likely in hospital, to the possibility of a bridge that lets babies actually thrive, maybe even at home with their families while waiting. That's just a profound difference.
It is.
You know, just picturing that a baby not wired up in a hospital room, but actually home, playing maybe.
Yeah.
That's the human side that just hits you.
It really grounds the science, doesn't it? Of course, we need to be realistic. This is still free clinical research, incredibly promising, yes, but there are many steps before it's widely available for human infants.
Sure, regulatory hurdles, more studies needed.
Absolutely. But the level of success they've already achieved, it provides a really, really strong foundation. It offers genuine hope.
It feels like such a testament to decades of work in this field, doesn't it? All the trial and error.
It really is. Decades of research into xenotransplantation, plus these recent incredible leaps in genetic engineering and understanding the immune system, it's all coming together.
It feels like we've traveled such a long way from those early attempts, like Baby Faye. This seems built on a much, much deeper understanding now.
Oh, absolutely. The complexity they can now manage.
Yeah.
It's night and day. What's fascinating is seeing how these different fields have converged.
The genetics, the immunology, the surgery.
Precisely. Being able to modify the donor organ so specifically and having smarter ways to manage the recipient's immune response, it's moved xenotransplantation from, well, maybe science fiction.
Yeah, it felt like that for a long time.
Closer to something tangible, at least, for this very specific, incredibly vulnerable group of patients initially.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap then. We've talked about the immense challenges for babies with these critical heart conditions.
Especially single ventricle defects.
The serious limitations of the current mechanical support, the VADs.
That low survival rate, the complications.
And then this groundbreaking research using genetically modified pig hearts as a temporary fix, a bridge.
Seeing those remarkable survival times in the baboon studies, almost 2 years in one case.
And crucially, that unprecedented success in actually reversing rejection when it started.
A huge step.
Plus, the proof of concept in successfully replacing the pig heart, the xenograft.
With the same species heart, the allograft. Showing the bridge idea could actually work.
Right. Just to clarify that terminology again for everyone, xenograft is cross-species, pig to baboon in this case. Allograft is same species, baboon to baboon.
And understanding that difference really underlines how big that initial pig heart success was.
Yeah, and underpinning all this is the progress in genetic modification of the pigs.
Making them more compatible.
And the smarter immunosuppression techniques.
Like using drugs such as Tegoprubart.
And then there's that really compelling finding that babies, immunologically, might just be more receptive.
Their immature immune systems seem more adaptable.
So the potential is clear. Moving beyond risky machines, offering maybe a better quality of life, maybe even letting babies go home while they wait for that ultimate gift, a human heart.
It's truly transformative potential.
It really hits home when you think about the families, right? The sheer emotional weight they carry, the desperate search for better options.
Absolutely.
This research feels like a genuine aha moment, a real possibility of not just keeping babies alive, but helping them live better during that critical wait.
Well said. And maybe this leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to chew on.
Okay.
What are the broader implications here? If we can successfully use these cross-species solutions, these xenografts, as a bridge for the most fragile infants, what other medical challenges, things that seem maybe insurmountable right now, might be tackled with similar kinds of innovation, combining genetics, immunology, surgery, these interdisciplinary approaches?
Thinking beyond just hearts, maybe, other organs.
Could be. The potential to address that huge, persistent shortage of human donor organs using approaches like this.
Yeah.
Well, it's immense. Something definitely worth thinking more about.